Hi everyone, thank you for joining me for the GitLab Jamstack Incubation Engineering update this week. Do you remember how I talked about Remix a couple of videos ago? Well, that one didn't let me go, so I created a proof of concept app this week. I wanted to see how easy it is to deploy a Remix app on an edge server using GitLab CI/CD. Spoiler, it was surprisingly easy. Note, I'm not the first one to do this. Even for the relatively new Remix framework, I already found a few blog posts that tell you how to do it. I just wanted to do it again to get a feel for the user journey. I'm just going to do it again in this video to show you, to let you know what I'm talking about. So let's start by setting up a new Remix app. Let's run this Remix CLI to create me a new project with npx create remix at latest. This will run me through the setup, the steps required. Let's use a folder named remix2 since I already have a remix 1. Now it's asking me, where do you want to deploy? And this is the first important bit already. I can scroll down here and see they have an option for Cloudflare Workers. So this is what I'm going to select. Now, see, with Cloudflare Workers, you can run a JavaScript server with a runtime environment like Remix on an edge server, the same way CDNs for static files are set up. So it's really close to the user wherever they are located in the world. The only thing is that Cloudflare obviously needs to interact with your JS server, routing requests and so on. So for Remix to be able to work with a request event as it's coming from Cloudflare, it needs an adapter. Also, there is a setup file that's required by Cloudflare, so you can't just deploy a plain Remix app on Cloudflare and hope for the best. But, I mean, this is almost as good. They're offering the Cloudflare Worker template that we selected earlier that comes with the adapter and the required setup files. I mean, this is amazing. So we have this folder now, and if we just do it npm run start, we can already see the app working locally. This is actually using Miniflare, so basically it's running the Cloudflare Worker environment on your local machine. Now, as an intermediate step, we would probably use the Cloudflare CLI, it's called Wrangler, on our local machine to deploy a first version of this app on Cloudflare. But hey, this is a GitLab video and we're all about CI/CD, so I'll skip this step and go straight to the GitLab setup. So let's create a new project for this in GitLab. Next, we have to actually commit and push our code to GitLab. Now, let's set up our CI/CD. This is done using the GitLab CI YAML file that will be committed to the repo. That file doesn't come with the Remix template, unfortunately, but it's easy to set up and I'm gonna walk you through it. First, let's use a Node.js Docker image for the interaction because we're going to need npm to build and deploy the application. We'll have 2 stages, build and deploy. Now let's define the build job. It's part of the build stage. Install our dependencies, run the build. Now we're putting the build folder into our artifacts, which means that'll be available in the next pipeline stage. We also have to keep our node modules for our deployment dependencies. Now, the next stage will then use Cloudflare's CLI to deploy our build app to the Cloudflare worker. It doesn't come pre-installed on the node image, obviously, but we'll just run it with npx, which will auto-install that CLI before running. So this is now our publish command. Now, this file is already done, looking good, just one thing missing. Like, how does the publish command know what Cloudflare account to use and how do we authenticate at Cloudflare? Well, it's simple. We will use an API token. We obviously don't want to commit that, so we'll set it up as an environment variable. Let's go step by step. First, we'll log into our Cloudflare account. Don't worry, first 100,000 requests to a worker are free at this time, so it should be safe to just try that for a bit. Let's navigate to workers. I already have a few since I've tried all this before, but it could also be empty, no problem. On the right-hand side is your account number, so let's copy that. Now we'll go back to GitLab, open up project, go to settings, CI/CD, and expand the variable section. Let's click add variable and enter cf_account_ID in all in uppercase. Let's enter the account ID that we just copied as a value. Make sure the variable is not protected at this time. We don't care about masking for the account ID at least. Now, let's do the same thing for the API token. Just a little bit more setup required. Go to Cloudflare, click API tokens. Now, we need to generate one first at least. Let's click create token. Select the edit Cloudflare Workers template that has all the required configuration already set up. Just two things we need to do here. One, I'll select my own account for the account resources for now and all zones for the zones. Okay, done. Click create token and now we can copy that. Okay, back to the GitLab UI. Create another variable, this time called cf_API_token. Paste the value we just created. This one we want to be masked. Okay, add. Now, the beautiful thing about GitLab CI/CD is these variables will simply be present inside the job. So we don't need to set anything else up. Now, when Wrangler, the Cloudflare API, runs inside the build container, it will read the values of those environment variables and know the account and create a worker or update it if it already exists. That's really neat, right? Okay, so all that's left to do is to commit this GitLab CI YAML file. Let's do this. Now we'll just see what happens. The pipeline has been created. Now it's deployed. So the job output gives us the URL where the app should be running. Let's click that. Ta-da! Here's our first Remix app running completely on Edge. Now, if I want to make any change to the app, for example, let's just update the title here, commit, and it will immediately trigger a new build and deploy. Here it is, just by committing. So this will work very, very similarly with other JS runtimes that have a Cloudflare worker adapter. For example, SvelteKit does have one, and if I'm not mistaken, so does Next.js and Nuxt.js. Now, I'm not just making instruction videos here at GitLab. My job is actually to try to make our product better for this kind of use case. So in the long term, I would love to take all this setup work off the user's shoulders. I think having the option to run JS runtimes on Cloudflare Workers is a great opportunity to offer a serverless deployment straight from the GitLab UI. Like, I imagine GitLab detecting that this repo is a Remix app and offering a single button that will create an environment which it runs just straight away with the adapter and everything. But that does need a lot of intricate work, most of it very specific to the framework that's being used. So it's a long-term goal. Initially, I think that we can do very easily is to streamline the setup process for users that have or want to create their own Cloudflare account. Just like we're doing it with Google Cloud and what Sri is doing in that space. Like, we can use the Cloudflare API to set up an account and obtain the API token so that the user doesn't have to. And going from there, we then can keep abstracting the various steps involved to set up that app. So I think there are my next steps. Just let me know if you have any feedback to this or any additional ideas. I hope you enjoyed this video. In any case, I hope to see you next week, and bye bye.